This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, let's see here. The 8th might be better because I think some stuff came up tomorrow that might be in conflict with what I said. I can't remember honestly what I said. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I can get some slides out later today.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, you might not be available tomorrow after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what time was it going to be? Because I think that it was something like 9 a.m. my time or something like that.
Yeah, I guess the recommended time was going to be 4 p.m. Eastern, which would have been afternoon.
Oh, okay. That might work for me. My stuff came up in the morning, so 1 p.m. Pacific would probably work. But yeah, I can try to get those slides out today if that's the case.
Well, that would be helpful. That'd be great. Let me see. I just pulled it up. Yeah, you had responded about 4 o'clock Eastern.
Okay.
Sounds good. Well, we'll wait for a couple more folks to join us. Oh, Maggie, the other thing I was trying to do was there is a Google Docs page that Erika set up for the webinar, and that was in the email that had the link for the rehearsal. And so she had just some placeholders. So I found a photo of you, so I was going to update the placeholder and insert the photo. I have to do a little more tweaking. It doesn't take a TIFF, so I have to change what I have into a JPEG and then see if I can upload it. However, it would be useful if you've got a real short little bio statement that we could add in, especially as it relates to the disasters cluster work and our theme about data-driven decision making.
Sure. I can. Do you want me to just put that in the Google Doc?
That would be best. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Bob Downs. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late.
Oh, that's okay. We actually haven't started, Bob. I was just tagging up with Maggie about the webinar and some of the logistics details of getting that together.
Okay, and it looks like I'm caller number 5 because for some reason my audio through the computer, the virtual machine, isn't quite reliable.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I do the same thing. I actually don't want my phone ringing, so I use the phone separately.
That's a good idea.
Hi, I also just wanted to make a note. I was having some problems a few weeks ago with logging into the GoToMeeting and getting the recordings done, but they've been uploaded to YouTube, and I updated them also in the notes here. You can see recordings of our old meetings.
Oh, great. Thank you, Jessica.
No problem.
Let's see. I guess it's 5 after. I am anticipating Dave will be joining us. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And there we go. Well, I guess we could give a quick rundown on the webinar. The information, if you're viewing it here, is set up pretty good. November 15th, 12:30 Eastern Time. Managing disasters through improved data-driven decision making. We have been collecting the information, and we're basically moving ahead. Tom Moran, who heads up the All Hazards Consortium, will give the first talk. We basically have 4 10-minute talks, and he's going to be just pretty much giving a brief overview of how the All Hazards Consortium has really been focusing on data-driven decision-making. I think he'll be touching on their use of use cases and their focus of really getting results quickly. I think that's, they're working with a community that is really interested in participating because this group has been solving problems, and a lot of those problems are really associated with transportation issues so that they can get to the site of a disaster where they're going to be having recovery operations. So he's going to give a short 10-minute overview of that. I spoke with him at an All Hazards Consortium sponsored meeting in Harrisburg. Was it just last week? Time is going quickly. And when Dave gets joins us, I hope we can get a little bit more information about that.
Hi, Karen. I'm here.
Great, Dave. Thanks. So I would like to talk a little bit about that meeting, which was quite interesting. But we talked to Tom last week, and he understands what we're trying to do with the presentation. He participated in generating the description, and the challenge, of course, will be getting it narrowed down to the 10-minute time frame because we have 4 speakers. And then next we would have Dave. It's, let me see, where is my picture of this? It'd be good to look at my notes so that I'm doing this accurately. So, yeah, Dave will talk about the dashboard and the way that the technology is supporting the interaction and sharing of often sensitive data that people, some of the members are allowing other folks to see, but not actually have the data. So that's a really important aspect of this effort in really providing the confidence to share that kind of data. And then that would be followed by Carrie Hicks. Last week, Carrie gave a really very interesting overview of her work in rolling out operational readiness levels with her team at Duke Energy during the major damage during both hurricanes. And now I'm not going to remember the names of Florence and Michael. Right. Both of the hurricanes that did so much damage this year. I think she was primarily, her talk was about work they had done with ORLs during Hurricane Florence. So I think her contribution here will be really very, very interesting. And then we move away from hurricanes in those 3 talks and invite Maggie to talk about some of the key results and lessons learned that she's had working with the earthquake community. So another domain, and we still are interested in pursuing that whole question of trusted data, and not just for hurricanes and utilities, but for in more general practice for a range of disasters, and how we continue to evolve the operational readiness levels. So that's kind of an overview, and we're scheduled for doing a rehearsal. Erika's done really a very good job of organizing the webinar, so it'll be a very professional job. When we're finished, it'll be recorded and made available. So let me go ahead and just open it up for comments. Dave and Maggie, you're both here. You can make any corrections and clarifications, but maybe we can stay with the webinar for just a couple more minutes, and making sure that we're ready for the 15th. So, Dave, do you want to have anything you'd like to add?
Sure, Karen. This is this webinar series. Erika does a great job with it, and she really does keep the time. And I think the time that we have to rehearse is going to go pretty quickly. It's not doing the whole webinar series, or not doing the whole series of presentations over the course of an hour. I think it's only going to take several minutes. She also wants to make sure we can dial in and everything works well, because it's a quick handoff. But when we produce the presentation, I believe we're all going to have it into one PowerPoint deck, so it can be used with no delay in switching to anybody else's systems. So I think, Maggie, as you think about putting together your slides, you want to send the whole PowerPoint our way, so Erika can merge them together, and then I guess she'll make them available so we can all download them back and have the full things. We can do our presentations. We'll see what she ultimately decides, but I think that's what she's done in the past. Just have one bundle where she just can go through the presentations pretty quickly, or we can control them however she wants to do it. But we've been making such great progress. The meeting last week in Harrisburg went really well, which is a model that looks like it may expand to multiple states, and that is that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania wants to start up a private sector or business emergency operations center, so the state can support businesses when disasters hit, or events happen, or roads need to be closed for certain reasons, that they can provide proactive information into a dashboard which the private sector can connect to at any time and help to plan their activities. For example, if the Pennsylvania Turnpike closes because of snow, if they let the businesses know 2 hours ahead of time, they've asked them, would that be helpful for you to plan your commerce or delivery of goods and products and services and stuff? And everybody's in great agreement that yes, advanced information like that would be very helpful for business. So it seems like the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is taking the approach of really connecting to help commerce and help the economy keep moving during events. So as we're working with All Hazards Consortium and working on the ORL levels and trusted data definitions, this is making its way into All Hazard Consortium meetings, and the presentation that they're making and ORL levels are getting a rave welcome, because no one has had any sort of standard or emerging standard like that. So we're making a big difference And I think DHS is going to be funding the All Hazards Consortium to have more of these workshops in other states. So hopefully it will be to adopt this kind of model. And so, we're in at the ground level with ORLs and data-driven decision making and all that sort of stuff that can spread throughout. So we should all be very proud about the impact we're having on the disaster lifecycle cluster. It's making a big difference. So that's all I have to say right now, Karen. I think for the webinar, we really just need to all stick to our time and just hone the slides we want to show and kind of get to the point so we can have 15 to 20 minutes of questions at the end from those who are connecting. And again, she records them, so it should be something we can use and pass around and edit and all that sort of stuff afterward.
Right. So, Dave, one thing I know that we talked about a while back was getting all of the slides in the right aspect ratio, kind of the wide version that works
Right.
with. So, yeah, I thought you were going to be assembling the chart. So that's what I was mentioning to Maggie is that.
Yeah. So you can send them to me. I already have a 16 by 9 template set up. Excuse me. And I can just put your slides in there. So you're right. If you just send them to me, I can put them together and then put them up on our Google Drive, I guess, for everybody to grab.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I think that we can find out from Erika just how what's the best way for handling the charts, but I do believe the idea was to have the one package and having them kind of in that same clean format would be helpful.
That's great. And you know what, Karen, with the email that Erika sent, I can respond to her if you don't mind, and I'll copy everybody saying, hey, send all your slides to me. I'll put them in the 16 by 9 format and then get them off to Erika next week.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you just want like a blank presentation with like title and content with no formatting at all?
Well, I think, you can lay it out however you'd like, Maggie. You don't have to worry about fancy backgrounds or, things like that, but I do want to capture all the content that you want to deliver. We'll just,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
Good. So, Maggie, do you want to say a little bit about your part of the webinar?
Sure. Well, do you want me to focus on the earthquake part of it, or do you want me to have some solid use case from the wildfires that we've been working on? Because I can talk about both if you'd like.
That slipped from me. No, I really recommend that you you pick the area that is kind of most compelling right now, and it does seem like the wildfires this year and certainly in recent times. So that was just my not thinking things through. So if you're already moving ahead with wildfires, I think that would be very, very good content.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can mention that we've had this partnership over the last almost 10 years with them, with the state, working with delivering this sort of value added scientific data products and trying to deliver it in the data formats and in a manner that is of use to them, but then go to the case example of where we worked with them for the fires and how we got the lessons learned as far as like what worked, what didn't, and since we this was the most recent example of how we worked with the state in delivering actual data to them, I think that might be the more compelling case, since we haven't done a lot of actual earthquake stuff in a little while. I don't know. Phil, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the fire is a good example. Remember at the after action report, one of the comments, which is independent of what kind of disaster, fire or earthquake, is simply folks don't know how to discover the data, they're not familiar with the data, and they need to have a way to do both. And that's still something that needs to get worked on. But Karen, to your point of this, the trusted data, we have to create this improved process to know how to find the data, and so we'd like to see some path for that, which would be great. I know I had the same conversation with David Borges this morning and Carl Struve yesterday. Or Carver.
And that definitely came up last week at the Pennsylvania meeting, finding the data, but knowing how to use it. So practicing with it. Quite a bit of talk about what to do during blue sky to, when everything's working just fine, is go ahead and look at some of these data products so people can be familiar with them.
And Maggie, I'd be happy if you could offer out to them that your group, you and Carver, are working together to get a presentation, a WebEx put together for what NASA can do for contamination delineation to our hazmat groups. That's related to both fire as well as potentially earthquakes. But again, it's just, socializing your capabilities, teaching people how to make the request, what they're going to get, how they're going to use it, all the above. And I think that's going to be really helpful.
Yep, sounds good.
Good. All right. So any other comments about the webinar? Questions, comments?
Yeah, this is Bob Downs. I just want to say that I think you're in good hands there, doing the a little run through. And as Dave said, it probably won't be that long, but I think it's worth doing that.
Great. Yeah.
And one other thing I'll say, Karen, is that hopefully there will be lots of folks from ESIP on the line and also from the Disaster Lifecycle Cluster. There should be, if we all keep to our time, ample time for discussion and questions. And so if we get asked the opportunity to spread, the discussion out a little bit, we might want to ask, I don't know if participants can, she opens the mic for everybody, but if we want to refer to CDAC and Bob and some of the work that they're doing there, or to UAH or things like that. I mean, because it'll give everybody an idea of the breadth of the reach that we have within the cluster to leverage innovations that are going on right now, to bring into the whole trusted data life cycle and searching of data and all that sort of stuff. So, it'd be nice to include everybody else in the discussion should the topics come up.
Very good point. Great. All right. Well, Dave, you did touch on the Pennsylvania meeting. I think that one of the things that really impressed me with the community that came together, the All Hazards Consortium has been asked to host this group, and as Dave mentioned, it's been endorsed, if you will, by FEMA, and then in this case, the Pennsylvania PEMA group actually funding it. And it was a very strong emphasis on getting the community to talk about their, the areas where they struggle during storms in particular. And so in Pennsylvania, the kinds of issues that come up, a very strong focus on difficulty, getting resources in the way that they manage transportation and trucking. I learned a lot about just how expensive it is for these trucks to move through, and how necessary it is to, when everybody is pitching in to support a community after a disaster, whether it's, hurricane or an ice storm, flooding. On the East Coast, we don't have quite so many fires, but, whatever disaster is coming in, people are ready to help, and there's just a whole way of people supporting, companies supporting that help effort, and they go out of their way to make it as cost effective as possible. And the kinds of problems that people run into are just really very interesting. Different companies, and it was, to me, quite instructive to learn about, like in agriculture and pharmaceuticals. There's one company has a truckload of eggs coming in to make vaccines, and they've had problems in the past convincing transportation authorities that that their truck is an essential is essential and needs to have access to get to its destination. And it's just the kind of thing, sitting back as a data provider, that you just can't imagine all of the possibilities of how the data can affect what's going on. So that, to me, was just made it just very, very interesting how different companies look at their response to disasters, and helping each other out. Get back to business was the theme. All right, well, let's see if I'm looking at the agenda here. I also had put on there a note about the AGU fall meeting. It's going to be coming up, I think, very, very quickly, because we will be coming into the holidays right after our webinar. So we probably would like to have a separate discussion from our monthly meeting to make sure that we're ready for that, because this particular AGU presentation really does focus on the work of our cluster and how we are moving forward with the trusted data concepts. So, Dave, I know you'll have a lot of input to that, and Jessica. So I guess what I probably should do is just put out a doodle poll to figure out a good day to get together and discuss that. Just what how we want to handle our 15-minute presentation at AGU.
Yeah, that sounds good. When do you want to schedule that, Karen?
Well, I'll do a doodle poll, but I'm thinking that sort of handle one thing at a time.
So you want to do it right after the November 15th webinar?
Yeah, that would be really good.
Okay.
Maybe we could even get it by that Friday. So,
Karen, this is Bob Downs. One thing I should mention is that that session is going to be a little more eclectic than it originally was planned to be, because 3 sessions were merged for
right.
that. So you'll see, if you look at the other talks there, that they're quite diverse, and so I think that gives you some more flexibility in terms of what you can do.
Good. Yeah, I did look at it a while back. It's just been really focused on the webinar really lately. But I do believe, yeah, there's a lot of good material from the webinar that we'll want to really bring forward anyway. But I will, I'll go ahead and pull that together so that we can get that going. I think it would be really good to try to get moving on that before Thanksgiving, and then we'd have an opportunity to see where we are at the beginning of December. All right. The other topic I really had for today was starting to get ready for the winter meeting. And I think it'd be really helpful if we could just, we did have a discussion, what kinds of topics and themes to focus on. And I know we had a bit of discussion last month. I'm going to try and pull up my notes, but what areas do we want to leverage and bring forward? I definitely would like to have a one face-to-face meeting, a session during the winter meeting.
Karen, if I could offer one.
Yes.
Currently, in a disaster, in our fires for sure, there really seems like 4 different portals that imagery and data, damage data gets put. USGS has their HDDS portal, NASA has their portal, FEMA has a portal, and DHS has a portal. And they all collect damage data. And when one is trying to find information about what imagery is available per particular site, it's not the easiest thing to go into each different portal and have to query it. And an area that I'd love to see discussed or at least think about is how could the holdings of these different portals be put into web services so that multiple kinds of cops who can all read web services could be able to, rather than have to go into each different portal, be able to search for what imagery exists of all the portals rather than to do each one separately. You see what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an excellent idea. And you're right on target with the damage assessment kind of products that, once the disasters hit, everybody's trying to figure out how they can get their work done. And a lot of them that I've been exposed to, of course, are looking at damage to transportation, also, frankly, damage to communications and, the various resources that they need to get back to business. So,
Karen, this is Bob Downs. Another thing we might want to keep in mind is the 2019 theme for the ESIP meetings, and that is increasing the use and value of earth science data and information.
Yep, very good. So tying in, Phil's idea about these different agencies who are providing portals, the winter meeting is particularly useful for that because the government partners show up, or at least we can specifically invite them to talk about their portals, and then certainly increasing the value of their data is something that they're all interested in. So coming up with ideas for kind of resolving the time and effort that's currently required going across agencies. That I think has a lot of that could be a very rich discussion that we could have.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
like to say that to me, a metric of the value of science and data is the more people that use it and can find it, the more valuable it is. The more people who can find stuff that maybe is created for incident response, but find out that it's very helpful for recovery activities is another, again, getting to the more people that can find it and make use of it, the better. So they kind of go together.
Yes, I think they do. Really good fit.
hey Karen, this is Dave. Along those lines, maybe we could make a section of the disaster cluster breakout at the winter meeting is perhaps addressing some of the things that DHS is looking into right now from the standpoint of their evolving definitions for their data quality framework. They're putting that together right now, and they really do love being involved with the All Hazards Consortium and the ORL approach. I think they're really going to see if they might be able to merge their data quality framework, because they have a data integration task force, and the gentleman who I've been talking to may even attend, which would be great. But they're looking at data quality standards, data quality management, data quality visualization, data quality warehouse, and getting the right definitions for those together. So we might want to really show them how relevant the disaster lifecycle cluster is. And boy, that question, I think, Phil, was that you that asked the question about the services?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll fit right into this too, because I just had a telecon with them earlier, and they were telling me, the huge investment they have in Esri back-end processing, and they put a lot of information out there in services, but a lot of it's behind their firewalls, that people can't get a hold of. And I said, well, if you can push that to services that are available in the cloud, ones that you want, whether you want to share them internally or externally, boy, that'll make a big difference in being able to get to some critical infrastructure data sets if you stand them up as services. So I think we're all circling around the same campfire here, and by joining at this time with some things, if we can make the disaster lifecycle cluster relevant to DHS, then boy, that could lead to all sorts of things, I suspect.
And I'm wondering if there might be an opportunity to invite someone from DHS to speak to us about, where they see, it'd be good to hear from them where they see like operational readiness levels, or perhaps how what we're doing kind of fits in with some of the strategies that they are putting forth to make the country more resilient, and some of those topics.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Karen. Let's refine that idea a little bit, and then I can probably ask Greg if he could speak, because I think he is actually, he's branch chief for the for technical and facilities for the National Infrastructure Coordinating Center. That's the NIC. So that's an important thing, and he might, since it's the winter meetings local, he might really want to participate.
Right. What's his last name again? Is it McShane?
It's Greg McShane.
Yeah,
McShane. Yeah, he was at the meeting in Pennsylvania too.
Yeah, and he's been lately been active on our Friday phone calls with All Hazards Consortium.
That's right. He told me he'll be on again tomorrow morning and stuff. And I think this is all just really good timing, and it just shows that the pathway we've been taking over the last several years has been a very good one because there seem to be merging in on where we are.
Right, right. We should definitely, if now is probably about the right time to start making those kinds of organizational steps, um, to, for the January meeting. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, there would be a potential, I know, for the plenary sessions and, kind of sharing some of these inputs uh, with the whole ESIP group. There might be a role of having an invited talk at a plenary that kind of focuses on, on this area, because certainly communicating information about data is crucial to increasing its value and use. So that's where our operational readiness levels comes in, and our continued focus on how it's trusted.
Yeah. It would be good if we could, let's think this through and talk to Aaron or others about, because if Greg could give a talk at the plenary session about DHS's approach, because he had mentioned to me that they're looking at redoing their whole infrastructure for information. And he actually made the comment on this telecon that I was on. I gave a demo of cross-instance data sharing in GeoCollaborate, like I did in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And he made the comment. He said, "This is the way of the future." So and it's based on accessing web services. So it's if he sees that kind of approach, maybe having him as a plenary speaker could be good, and then he could join our breakout session for the disaster lifecycle cluster.
Right.
So
Right.
Karen and Dave, this is Megan Carter. I just want to say that if you have a suggestion for a plenary speaker, a plenary talk, that you should let both Aaron and I know as soon as possible, because we're currently putting together the plenary parts. So.
Okay. Well, consider that a heads up. Should we just send you an email with the idea so you can just consider it?
Yeah, send us both an email as soon as you can, and we'll take it under consideration. I think we sort of had some ideas, directions to go in, but everything's in flux right now, so any suggestions are good ones.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, because with the disasters that we've had and DHS going through some, evolutionary processes and looking at the ORL levels and all that stuff, there's definitely a connection into ESIP, and somebody presenting there from DHS could make a big statement.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to get kind of high profile things like that, and people who are maybe local to that vicinity. Yeah, just reach out and suggest.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah,
Thanks, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to add that I remember the DHS was sponsoring these workshops earlier this year that OGC was conducting on key issues for the disasters response community, and they came out with a couple of reports along those lines, and that might be it basically supports the importance of what DHS is going through now in terms of assessing, how to serve the nation with, with these hugely expensive disasters that we keep getting hit with.
Yeah, no, this could work out really well. I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt either if DHS really likes what's going on. Sometimes they can put money into things, and if they could be become an additional sponsor of ESIP in areas where they really are interested in. Boy, that'll make a big statement.
Yeah. So I found another note regarding what we might want to do at the winter meeting that we had discussed recently, and that was supporting a kind of a crosswalk and alignment between the operational readiness levels and some work that I think is coming out of National Science Foundation. They were calling it Analysis Ready Data. So I think that might be another good topic to learn more about. At least from my perspective, I'm not too familiar with ARD. And then see ways that we, moving forward, can leverage and really bring those ideas together so that you don't want to have too many standards, and to the point that it may be that operational readiness levels for, especially in the disasters realm, might have some unique special needs that are quite different from analysis ready data. But I think it would be good to try to explore that.
Is that a new initiative, Karen?
This was something Don Sullivan brought up, and that's what I was saying. I thought it came from National Science Foundation, but I'm not sure. And Don, I know, is traveling. He sent me a note and couldn't say. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up again because these notes will be helpful, as we'll have to move ahead for the winter meeting pretty quickly.
Yeah, it'll be great to hear more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's see. Yeah, we got the ideas from Phil. The idea about DHS's work, and then possibly this analysis ready data, and going a little deeper into that as relates to our trusted data and operational readiness levels. That's probably plenty for a winter session meeting. But I guess I could just open it up or finish up a little early today for when we're done. But if there are other ideas that we should explore.
This is Stefan. I have something back on AGU. There's a disaster meeting the Sunday before AGU starts. I was wondering if anybody was planning on going to that. It's an IUGG event.
Yeah, very good point. And I'm trying to remember. That sounds familiar, so I think I saw it. Was it being hosted or in any way supported by like the natural hazards group at AGU, the section on that?
I'm not sure which group. The title is a joint AGU-IUGG Centennial Symposium on Disaster Risk Reduction, Resilience, Response, and Recovery, 8 to 5:30 on Sunday. Said it's limited to 250 people and to be interactive.
Is it extra? Is it open to everybody who's registered for AGU?
Correct. You have to go in and select it though, because it's limited to 250 people. I was able to. It wasn't full as of a few days ago.
Thank you for bringing that up. If you happen to have that email available that describes it, that would be useful to kind of share with our cluster.
Okay.
Hi, I'm just trying to find a link to that so I can add it to the document. Can you tell me again? It's just like the Sunday before, and it's called, what is it? The actual event name called?
Yeah, let's see. Maybe I can just put it right into the Google Doc here. Sorry, I don't have our Google Doc up, but it's the joint AGU IUUG symposium.
Can you put, if you have a link, can you put it in the chat for the webinar?
Yeah, I don't have the link. There we go. I've got the description. So,
Sorry, is it IUUG or is it IUGG?
I'm sorry, it's IUGG, Geodesy and
Okay, that's what I thought.
Geophysics. Sorry.
I just found it. It's on the Centennial Events page of AGU. You have to scroll down for it.
Okay. Finally, I found get the link for you. There's the link in the chat window.
I'll be posting that.
This was kind of more a strategic long-term thing rather than part of it does say response.
Just realized I had my mute on. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Stefan. And I can see you've got the whole description there in the chat window. It's very helpful. So are there any other topics to bring up? All right. Well, thank you very much. I hope everybody can join us when we have the webinar November 15th, and hope everybody has a very good day on the 6th and votes. And we'll be back again first Thursday of December.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye,
Karen.
thanks everyone.